guys, welcome back to the channel. So as promised, in today's video we're going to be dehydrating some mincemeat. I must say that I have not dehydrated the mince before. However, I've read up and apparently yes, you can do this and you can do this safely. If you follow the channel, I did some recipes of dehydrating the beef pieces, and basically making a beef jerky, and that turns out to be really well. The shelf life generally of, say, the beef jerky, if you keep this in an airtight container, is absolutely fine for a couple of months. And of course, then if you make it really dry, you can store this with the in the Milo bag for a prolonged period of time. So technically, dehydrating mincemeat, it should be the same principle, but the idea is where the jerky I make slightly leathery and chewy because we normally consume this sooner. Dehydrating mincemeat, I'll make sure that it's kind of really dry to the point of them able to actually put this in the Milo bag and even put the oxygen absorber in to keep it for a really long period of time. Before you sort of ask and wonder, well, why on earth you can dehydrate meat? Because you can can it. I have a canner, I do canning. However, firstly, the point of the jars are really quite expensive, and I totally understand that the texture of your mincemeat dehydrated versus the canned, obviously it'll be totally different. However, again, it's one of those things I like to have an option with anything when I prep. I like to have things in the multiples in terms of a variety. So I would like to have dehydrated meat and I like to have some canned meat. At the same time, again guys, dehydrated stuff is so much lighter, and at the same time, if you put this in an airtight container, you can take as little or as much as you need. Whether if it's canned, you kind of have to use the whole can, but it's still a small one anyway. But I thought, in the name of research anyway, I wanted to make sure that if I do it, and then we're going to do a taste test and make sure to compare basically how the dehydrated mincemeat tastes comparing to a cooked mincemeat. Okay, so I have two packets which you might have seen on my previous video. This is a 5% fat, 750 grams each. One of the main things to note, guys, is anything, when you dehydrate anything, fat is our enemy. So the key is to basically pick the least amount of fat in your mincemeat. There are again many options, guys. We can fry the meat to try to render the fat out, or in this instance, I will be boiling it. I think by frying it, yes, it will give it potentially, it will be more a bit more flavor. However, I think when we come to dehydrate it and hydrate it, the singeing part of the mince, I think, will probably hinder the hydration process. So I've made a decision that we will be boiling this in the pieces and then dehydrating that. Another thing for all of you guys that are potentially worried about the whole bacteria thing with meat, is like with anything, guys, temperature and the time that you dehydrate it is the key, and make sure that the meat is cooked before dehydrating that. So in the beef situation, you know, you can eat the beef raw if you really wanted to. However, generally to cook the beef, the internal temperature will have to be at 74 degrees. So when you do dehydrate this in your dehydrator, make sure that the dehydrator is actually able to get to that sort of temperature to make sure we kill all the bacteria. And then people sometimes worry, like, well, dehydrating meat and fish, but in many countries they've been doing this for years, and as long as it's done properly, it is safe to do, providing again you use your common sense. If it's been sitting there in the storage for a really long time, you do your usual sort of smell test and make sure it's a-okay. So without further ado, guys, okay, I've got my two packets here, and it's not a vacuum sealed one, so the piece is already kind of loose. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I've got my water here, which I'm going to put the hob on, but it's going to make a bit of noise. And I'm going to glove up. And I want to make sure that the pieces are fairly small, okay, so they cook quicker here. And it's easier for me to then spread on our dehydrator. Because the smaller the pieces, the quicker they'll dehydrate. Okay, right, so the water's here, so let's get it in. Yeah, you see when it's like a little spaghetti, if you wish. Okay, so let's get this in there. It's gonna look disgusting. I don't think I ever boiled a mincemeat, ever. But here we go. Make sure it comes as small. So guys, the meat is in, okay, so it's looks like a lovely mincemeat soup. It's good though, because it is the way, because it's been non-vacuum sealed, as I mentioned, it just comes up like really nice small pieces, which should make our life actually quite a bit easier, which I'm really, really pleased about. I was wondering whether it's going to sort of all just clench together, but it's a really well done. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to put this on. Okay, it's going to make a lot of noise, but you don't need to see this anyway. But basically, we're just going to cook the mincemeat and make sure it's all the way cooked all the way through. Right, guys, so, okay, I brought this to the boil and the pieces are cooked. It doesn't take long purely because of the sheer size of them. That kind of thing doesn't look particularly appealing. It just looks like a bowl of sewage, unfortunately. But, okay, we are done. I'm going to do this in batches. I'm going to do second one off camera, guys. There's no point you kind of watching me doing this. It's kind of really basic. So, the next thing I'm going to do, guys, as I said, it is cooked through. I'm going to strain that, okay? And then we are going to rinse this under the water to make sure we wash off any excess of basically fat and other mank that is on it. So there we are. It's been rinsed and it's actually very good. I'm very happy the way it's looking. The strands are really, really thin, so it means it's going to be not very long for it to be dehydrated, which I'm really happy with. So what I'm going to do, because we're going to say, like I said, guys, at the end, I'm going to try to do a blind taste test. And to see which one, obviously, or not blind taste test, but see how it goes. But yeah, just to see whether there's actually much difference between dehydrated and just a cooked one. So because it's been boiled, I'm going to take the boiled one. So we're going to kind of cook it the same way, just a little bit, okay? And the rest is going to go into, just drain as much as you can into the bowl, okay? And what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to quickly do the same with the second one, okay? And then we'll get it loaded in the dehydrator. So I'll see you in a second. Alright, guys, we're all done. So this is what we have. Okay, I got the whole bowl of the meat. I forgot to mention, rinse that in a very hot water. Okay, that just gets off the grease just a little bit better than just the cold water. So I've done this a few times, and at the moment now I'm picking up the mincemeat and I feel no fat on it whatsoever. My hands are non-greasy, so to me that is good enough. Okay, so the next thing is as simple as it is, as we're just going to load it in. In this instance, right, because I want to dehydrate it quite a bit quicker, I'm not going to load the whole dehydrator like I normally do. It does go against my loading the dehydrator thing and running it full, because, well, if you're running it, might as well actually dehydrate a lot. But for this instance, I'm not. So all I'm going to do, I know some people suggest you can put this on the kitchen towel to soak in the fat, but I honestly don't feel that we'll be needing that at all. So let's get that in there. Make sure your hands are super clean as always. Spread this round. He looks so weird, but okay. That's the best we can. Okay, straight in. Get it in the middle. The middle seems to always cooks better, well, better but faster. I think we might need 3 trays. You can dab it with the kitchen towel if they are a little bit wet still, if you wanted to, I think. But we're fine. Just make sure, break up the pieces. If you still got some slightly big ones, just break them up. So it all dehydrates at the same time. I'm looking at this, if husband was watching it, he's like, oh my god, what a waste of mince. But it's not wasted, guys. We're going to eat it at some point. Right. So, we are done. Last one in. Okay. In. It's created a bit of a mess, but lid goes on, guys, and we're going to be dehydrating this. It did, just reading up generally, like when I do, the beef jerky, I normally dehydrate it between 6 to 8 hours, but they are bigger pieces, and obviously I do leave them to be chewy. This stuff, it's really, really small, so technically it should be much, much faster, but I don't know, because I've never done this before. We're going to play it by ear, but I'll let you know in the end when it's done how long it took. So all I'm going to do, guys, plug it in. We're going to put this on the maximum 74 degrees Celsius, which is 165 Fahrenheit. and I'm gonna wash on the timer for 4 hours. I'm gonna check on it in that time, and we'll see if it needs more. I'll put it in more. So otherwise, guys, I will see you when it's all done. So guys, the mincemeat has finished and it's totally dehydrated. It took approximately 5 hours. I'm filming the following day because, well, things happen. So anyway, so it's been there for 5 hours and then it's finished. I turned it off and it just sat there in the dehydrator overnight. So, okay, it is literally quite amazingly, but it's not really shrunk that much, okay? So this is what we have, right? So they kind of look tiny little strands. And again, just to make sure with anything when you dehydrate, just make sure, snap anything in half and just make sure it snaps without any resistance. And in this instance, we're literally crumbling. And I think what really helped is the fact that it's been minced such a fine, through such a fine thing. So that it's so thin that just dehydrated that much faster, which is absolutely amazing. So as you remember, okay, I've put away some meat, mincemeat, yesterday. Technically it's been in the fridge, don't worry, which we just boiled before dehydrating. And then I've got some mincemeat here that I just poured some hot water in. And I do apologize for not showing this because I forgot to press play when I did this, so I had to start again. But nonetheless, here we have the mincemeat here sitting there in water, hot water, rehydrating. So now all I'm gonna do, and it's gonna be a messy one like it was with the rice, okay? So I'm just gonna put that mincemeat in my jar. Okay, I'm gonna create a mess everywhere and I'm gonna clean the mess up, okay? And then when it's all done, hopefully the mincemeat's dehydrated. I'm gonna show you what that looks like. And then we're gonna taste it and actually see whether we can really taste the difference between the fresh one and the dehydrated meat. So let me get all that meat in my jar and I shall see when it's all done. So guys, here we are. Okay, one jar, believe this or not, 1.5 kilos that went in there, give or take a little handfuls we've taken out, fitted in into 1 liter coolness jar, which is like really surprising, okay? And at the same time, it's very, very good. Again, bearing in mind, guys, we're preparing this for, say, a long-term storage, and I'm either going to put the vacuum seal the jar here or put this in a mala bag, which I eventually will do when I create a bigger batch. This one here is going to be left in my pantry. I'm just going to vacuum seal this, and I'm going to experiment doing certain things with it just for the future research, for the future videos. So as it comes to the meat now, it's sat here for a good 10 minutes, okay? It doesn't look as plump as the initial one before we dehydrated this, but it is understandable. But bearing this in mind, guys, don't forget, by the time I get to cook and add sauce to it, it should literally plump up and taste that little bit better, hopefully. But let's actually do the taste test, okay? So this is the meat, the non-dehydrated. Okay, each, like you would imagine the mincemeat to be. Don't forget, we're totally washed off all the flavor, like all the fat, so it's literally as raw as it could possibly be, in terms of raw being not raw in a cooking state, but raw is in flavor. And then this one here, little pellets. Let's pick one up. Okay, it's hydrated, but I think if it'll sit there just for a bit longer, it will be pretty much the same as that. Taste-wise, I don't see no difference. It's just a little bit of the texture difference, but it will resolve itself in a due course. At the same time, even if it didn't, okay, it's not a big deal. Again, we're preparing like a pure protein to be able to sit in your shells for a very long time without any fat in it. So that's that. I'm kind of really happy with the results. Again, it might not look particularly appetizing, but again, in the end of the day, guys, when the shit hits the fan, it's like you get something, you will get nothing anyway. And I think because, I know, and I said this before, guys, because many of you worried in terms of the fat content, this thing is dry as a crisp, and it's no different for you dehydrating any vegetables. As I said, as long as it reaches a temperature, and you literally dry this to 100%. Again, you can never over dehydrate anything, providing you don't singe stuff when you dehydrate it, like certain things that could be like apples that could go really dark because you literally burn them. So as long as you don't burn it, but just dehydrate things at the correct temperature and they are totally, totally dry, you have nothing to lose. And again, I said this before, I have a canner, but I think it's such a great idea to be able to have something like this portable. I appreciate you might not want to run away with the glass jar because it's still weighty. However, if you Milo bag it, even if you put this for the short term in a normal Ziploc bag, if you're going camping or anything else, it's just such a space-saving idea. And that's where I think that dehydrated meats and fish is actually a really good idea. I have tons of ideas and I want to experiment with dehydrated calamari. I love dried squid, right? You can buy this and it's quite expensive, but I absolutely adore that sweet and savory taste. And it's something I'm intending to experiment and then produce the video for you guys so you can find out the results anyway. But as this stands, guys, so this is the 2 results. And is it worth it? I think so, especially considering it's only taken about 5 hours to dehydrate, and it will save my freezer, although I still have this in the freezer, but it will save you space if you choose to do that anyway. So anyway, I do hope you found this helpful or entertaining or both. And don't forget, please, thumbs up and maybe subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel. And I shall see you in the next video. Bye-bye.